Folks, still in Houston. We're at the Marriott and in what's left of the Republican State Convention for 2020. And I'm sitting here with David Bellow. Is that how you say
That
it?
is correct.
David
Yes.
Bellow. Where are you from, David?
I'm from Jasper, Texas, East Texas.
Jasper. Okay. East Texas. Piney Woods.
Piney Woods, deep in the Piney Woods.
There you go. I have family in Longview and Gladewater.
Okay.
Gladewater. I went as a kid to Gladewater a lot, and my uncle had a tank up there, a pond. We called it a pond, and man, that thing was huge, and it had a boat and a dock and everything. It was massive.
Very
and
cool.
his house was huge, and I remember, and I went back there as a grown-up a few years later, and that pond was the tiniest thing ever in the world, and his house was so small. But as a kid, to me, it was like, and we were out in the woods in the middle of nowhere, and I said, "That's the same pond that I got that hook in my head." Yeah.
That's
it's like,
funny.
but it was so huge. It's like, yeah, you were tiny back
Yeah.
then too. So have you lived in East Texas all your life?
Yes.
Is that all right?
Southeast Texas, East Texas.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Good for you. So why did you come to Houston? I mean, I know your humidity's bad enough out there.
Yeah, it is.
But then you had to add the smell and the traffic
Yeah.
to it, and you came to Houston of your own free will.
Well, it was really important to come. I'm here supporting equal shared parenting. Well, I'm a delegate.
Okay.
And the committees are where the important stuff happens before the convention. And I'm supporting equal shared parenting. And so I knew I had to come to these committees. We have been, just last year, we testified in Texas Legislature Committee
Okay.
for equal shared parenting bills. And it actually passed out of the committee overwhelmingly bipartisan.
And this was the what was it? The lunch.
No, the
that
lunch
was-
bill passed
Okay.
unanimously,
Okay.
or almost unanimously. We also got bills passed out for equal shared possession and access. And the problem is the Democrat chairman of that committee waited till the very end of the session to let it get voted on, and so it never made it to the floor.
Right.
And so we, myself and several others, decided to come to the conventions.
Yeah.
Because if we want to get it pushed as a priority in the legislature instead of pushed back at the end of the session, we got to start with the party level.
Right.
And we got to make it an issue that they say, yes, this needs to happen this year at the Texas legislature. So we showed up, actually before we showed up, we did a lot of groundwork, probably more than any other organization. We sent out a postcard to every delegate. I contacted, and several of us contacted the committee members, email, text. I personally sent letters to each of the committee members in addition to the postcards they got. So when we showed up here, they knew the issue, they knew the facts and the issues, and so it was much easier for us to then have a conversation about why it's so important. And I'll explain in just a second the issue itself and exactly what the issue is and what the law is that we want to pass. But as a quick update, we've passed these committees with flying colors. It's passed
Here at the convention.
At the convention. So the platform subcommittee passed it unanimously. Then it just got passed in the temporary committee unanimously in the actual full platform committee. And what that means is it's very likely going to pass, because once you get whatever you get passed in the temporary platform committee, it's very unlikely it's going to get changed
Right.
in the permanent committee tomorrow, because it's usually mostly the same members.
Yeah.
And then on the floor, it's very difficult to get anything changed on the platform once it reaches the floor, especially in a virtual convention. So
Right.
I'm very comfortable saying it is a platform.
It's going to be on the platform. It's going to be
it's
a plank in the platform.
It's a plank in the platform. And then not only that, we actually have a very good chance of it being a legislative priorities. So all the hundreds of platform planks.
Right.
You've got a handful of legislative priorities, which is this is the most important that the Republican Party is going to push at this session.
Right.
And we actually, in the committee, we passed it unanimously in the subcommittee. In the full committee, it has been voted informally by the full committee as the number 6 legislative priority.
Good.
There's
good.
8 total that will be passed
Okay.
by the full body. Now, here's the catch: legislative priorities, even though we in the committee we were voted as 6, they're going to put out 15 total,
Okay.
and then the full committee the full convention,
The full body.
I guess
yeah.
virtually,
Right.
will actually vote on their top 8. So it might be a little more difficult to make it in the top 8, even though we passed in the top 8 out of committee. The committee heard us. The committee saw the facts, the issues. They were able to see, yes, this is important. It's going to be much more difficult to get to all the delegates that this is such an important issue that it needs to be a top 8 legislative priority. It's not impossible. We sent out all the postcards. We're one of the very few issues, if the only issue, that sent postcards. We are going to send text messages to all the delegates as well before the vote. So I think we've got a good shot of making it a priority after the vote of the delegates. But certainly we made it a top 6 in the committee. And
That's exciting.
And that's pretty exciting. It's huge, actually. And
I was just talking to someone who came to the committee or came up here for all of this, and they're so discouraged that they're not getting anything done. And it's like, in fact, he told me, he said, I'm not even sure. I think this may be my last convention. It's just that's what he said. And then I hear less than 10 minutes later, here you sit down and you're excited about all the possible victories and the good things you've done, and so that's kind of neat to see that. And so at least seeing some successes somewhere. Maybe need to hook you up with that other guy and teach him to do whatever it is y'all are doing.
It takes work. It takes groundwork, reaching to people even before the committee, before the convention starts, and just really portraying your issue the right way, making sure people understand the facts of the issue, the importance of the issue. And with our issue particularly, once people hear it, it's like, yeah, that's because really one of the biggest parts of our issue is without equal shared parenting, we have a fatherless America. Because the effect of non-equal shared parenting is the majority of fathers only get every other weekend to see their children.
Right.
That's devastated the United States of America and especially Texas, because the facts are clear. The majority of people in jail, the main thing in common, no fathers. The majority of people on drugs, the main thing in common, no fathers. The majority of school dropouts, the majority of teen pregnancies, the majority of teen suicides, no fathers. And we're talking like 80, 90% no fathers. Huge percentage of societal ills can be directly correlated to no fathers, and these are not our stats.
Right? Yeah.
These are stats from the U.S. Census Bureau, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Texas Department of Criminal Justice. These are legitimate stats. And you know what? We don't need stats though. We know it.
Yeah,
we see it in society. No fathers creates problems for children and for eventually society.
Absolutely.
Children need their fathers, and children not just need their fathers. That's a huge reason why we push equal shared parenting. But the fact of the matter is children need both their parents equally. It's how God intended. It's how, it takes 2 to create a child. Mm-hmm. It should take 2 to raise it. Absolutely. Men and women are equally important. They both might be different, but they're both equally vital for that child. And believe it or not, there are women who are fighting the same battle. They go to court and their ex has a good lawyer and they don't have money to pay for a lawyer and they only get every other weekend. And that's not right either. Children should have both mother and father. And this law that we're pushing, that almost passed last year in the legislature, this law basically says when you have 2 fit, equal, and willing parents, then when they split and you've got a child, you got to say, okay, who they go with? Who do they go with? When they go to court, the new standard, the new starting point is going to be, y'all are going to split the child equally. Okay. It's not going to be, you're not going to be able to fight over who gets every other weekend. It's going to be, y'all are both going to share. Go home, stop fighting, and
figure this out.
And split the child equally, because it's not about you. It's about this child. And this child doesn't need to go through years of litigation where you both try to jockey for who gets more time. When two parents are fit, equal, and willing, then the courts, instead of the current standard, which is one parent only gets every other weekend, the new standard should be equal shared possession and access, equal responsibility, equal time. And then from there, the judge still can, issues can still be raised of, oh, this person's a child molester.
Right, right.
And then the judge can say, yeah, you're not fit. You don't get equal custody. Or this, we live, 10 hours away from each other. Well, obviously, you've got to be fit, willing, and able. You're not able to do it if you live 10 hours away. Right. But the majority of parents splitting, they live nearby. They are fit parents. They're good parents. Why go to court and spend years, 18 years fighting, and one parent doesn't get to be involved in that child's life? We should have a system where when two parents go to court and want to split, that child is going to leave with having both parents involved in their life equally. Okay. And that's the issue. That's the law. And when people hear it, it's like, wow. First of all, I never really thought of it as a huge issue, but yeah, it makes sense. Fathers especially not being involved in their children's life is such a huge issue to society. It should be a priority.
Right.
It should be something that we say, this can't wait. We got kids committing suicide because they don't have parents involved in their lives, or they're fighting in court. We need to make this a priority. And that's why the committee voted top 6. And had that convention been able to meet personally, and we could tell them what we're telling you, they would say, yeah, we need to make this a priority. And I think we could still do that, even though we can't really talk to the delegates.
Right.
I think they'll still hopefully see the issue on the board to vote for. They'll have gotten our flyers. We will send them text messages over the next day or two. And hopefully we can still convey that message, even though it'll be harder over text.
Let's go on to legislation. You said possible legislation.
Yes.
What are y'all going to do in January? The session starts January 12th. Committees will probably be somewhere around Valentine's Day. What do you have planned for the next legislative
session? Same thing we did
session?
here. Before the session, we're not going to wait till the session starts. We're going to start contacting these legislators right after this, especially Republican ones, because we can now take this. It's a platform plank, and it either will be a priority or it almost was a priority. And we can go to every Republican legislator and say, this is in the platform of your party. This was voted on unanimously by the Republicans in Texas. And with that, I don't see any Republican legislator not saying, let's do it.
Let's do this.
Let's do it.
And so then, do you have a bill specifically designed?
Yes, so we already had one last year. So, yeah, so State Representative Middleton, Mays Middleton, and James White, and also Sanford. They, on the House side, pushed they already wrote and actually got passed out of committee. The committee I was referring to, both Democrats and Republicans actually voted for it. Only one liberal Democrat voted against it. Their bill passed out of committee. And so we already have
So
there's
you
already
want
a
to
bill out there.
resurrect that bill. You want to resurrect
That's
that bill.
exactly.
Yeah,
It already
because
passed.
that bill's at the end of the session. If a bill, it goes
Yeah.
away if it doesn't get
It goes
passed.
away. So
but
we don't
there's
even have to
nothing-
create new language. We
Right,
just
you
have
can
to
just bring it back up.
bring back
and
the same bill.
It's a new number. And,
But then,
go out
but
and
this
fight for it
time,
more.
now it's a possible
Priority.
legislative priority, and it's a platform plank. So this time, we can get maybe all the legislators as sponsors, and this time maybe they'll give it to a committee that that isn't run by a liberal Democrat, and it'll make it to the floor for a full vote. Which
Yeah.
who's gonna stand up and
say-
vote on the record? No, children don't need both their parents.
Yeah, well,
You
I don't
know,
know. You might be surprised when you get to the
That's
People's
true.
Republic of Austin. You might get real surprised. So you didn't just wake up some morning and decide this was going to be your issue.
No.
So can you bear a little bit of your soul? Can you tell? And you don't have to. You can
No,
say
no, I would love to. It's
Why are
it's
you at this
more of
point?
a 10 series
A 10-hour
documentary.
conversation. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
but I can give kind of the quick version.
All right. Let's do the quick version.
If there, I mean, you're gonna
There
miss
you
out a
go.
lot, but you'll get the gist of it. So I'm married now. Got an amazing wife. Just had we got a 10-month-old child, and but before my current marriage, I was married and had a child with someone else.
Okay.
And long story short, she was leaving our 1-year-old son in cars in parking lots while she had affairs.
Okay.
So, oh, hey, let's go to counseling, whatever, I was naive, but long story short, divorce filings. And I wanted my child to have both a mother and a father. But she lawyered up. Well, we both lawyered up, but she got a lawyer, which most lawyers do this. They say, no, you need to fight for more time. You need to fight to take the kid away from him. You need to, and they want to make money off of controversy. That's one of the problems with this issue. Is the reason why it hasn't passed already is because these lawyers are making so much money, but they suck the money out of fathers who want to be involved in their kids, and so fathers can't afford to go to the Capitol and testify. So so she got her lawyer, and for 2 years. 2 years later, we're finally going to jury trial, and I'm like, look, let me make, she tried all her little tricks in court to get things tossed out, get my pleadings dropped, but she was going to have to face a trial where she had to explain why she would leave her kid in a car in a parking lot while she had an affair.
Right.
And so I said, look, you don't have any more games to play before the trial. Will you accept 50-50? He's 3 now. He can talk. He can tell me if you're doing stuff stupid. If I have 50-50, I'll be able to know even though you were leaving him in cars and park lots, he'll be old enough to be able to tell me. Right. And he needs a mom and a dad, and I'm willing to say 50-50 because you know what? Instead of a trial, that money for a trial we could spend on our kid.
Right.
And and we'd likely get 50-50 anyways at the end. But so she accepted. She accepted 50-50 custody. And, but it was just a trick because in family court, because there's an option to try to just go back year after year and one person can be given every other weekend, because that's an option, instead of just saying you both have to split 50-50 custody, because it's an option for people to go fight, guess what they do? They go fight. Every year they go back and, we got to tear the kid apart, fighting every year, and the kid commits suicide or goes on drugs, and, and so because this law is set up to where she can fight, and just try to change it, even after she just agreed to it. So 30 days after she she accepted 50-50. The divorce was signed, 50-50 was agreed to and signed. She then went to District Attorney Investigator in Jefferson County, Marcelo Monfino, and paid him $1,500 cash. And we know this because she testified to it later. She knew this guy because this was a guy who already didn't like me because I turned him into the state for unlawful private investigation without a license.
Okay. All right.
So he was a law enforcement officer. He charging people with criminal crimes.
Okay.
But he's going to civil court and having people pay him a bunch of money to private investigate.
Okay.
But then miraculously, these people that paid him money, he would end up going and putting on a hat for criminal side and charging them. So basically, he was getting paid to charge people.
Yeah.
So I do a little digging, and he doesn't even have a license to do this in civil court. You have to have a license, just like you have to have a plumber's license or whatever.
Right.
He had to have a license, and he can't say he didn't know. That's his job.
Right.
To know the law. And ignorance isn't a defense, anyways. That's what they tell other people when they throw them in jail.
That's right.
So the Texas DPS investigated and determined he was in violation of a Class A misdemeanor. A district attorney investigator was found in a report by the Texas DPS that I turned him in for, found to unlawful investigate Class A misdemeanor.
And how does this tie back in?
So this ties back in because the guy doesn't like me because I turned him in for Class A misdemeanor.
Okay.
His boss, the DA, says, "Oh, we're not going to prosecute my boy." That's what he said in other instances when people brought criminal complaints against the DA investigator. "Oh, that's my boy. Just leave him alone." So the DA didn't charge his own employee. So this DA investigator, I turned him in. The state determined he was in violation of the law. My ex goes to him and says, basically, I don't know what she said, but basically, she goes to the guy who doesn't like me, who's a criminal investigator, who I turned in.
And
then she pays him $1,500. Next thing you know, this criminal investigator has charged me.
Okay, all right.
Has charged me with some bogus, completely false charge. And
you lose custody.
No. She then uses this charge to 30 days after she settled. She goes to court. We need, I want a modification.
Oh, okay, all right.
So that was 3 years ago. 3 years later, we're still in a custody battle. We haven't gone to trial yet. But the good news is, I fought. I got the facts. I got the evidence. All the charges got dismissed. I got evidence that she paid him. I got evidence of his criminal violations, and everything got dismissed against me. There's a special the Texas Rangers came in, opened an investigation against the Jefferson County District Attorney and the District Attorney Investigator. The Texas Rangers submitted their report to a special prosecutor in San Jacinto County, a separate county. It was so corrupt over there, they knew they had to go to a separate county.
Yeah.
And it's very likely a grand jury will indict a setting district attorney, an investigator, and when we finally go to trial, a custody trial, a jury's going to see that I'm a good father who actually wants my son to have a mother and a father.
Right.
And she, just to try to get custody from me, to try to get time from me, involved in my child's life at the expense of my child. There's 100 videos over the last 3 years of my child screaming, crying, not wanting to go back to his mother, not because he doesn't love his mother, but because he didn't get enough time with me. Because we had 50-50, and then all of a sudden, a judge in a custody case can do temporary orders.
Okay.
And so the temporary orders are me to have just standard. So I only see my son every other weekend. And so he went from seeing me every other day, basically, to every other weekend.
Oh.
And my son is tormented. He was hurt. He was psychologically damaged. And she put him through this because of herself instead of what was best for the child. And so none of what happened with me would have even happened if we had equal shared parenting laws, because we would have both gone to trial. The judge would have had no option. If both parents are deemed fit, willing, and able, he would have only had an option to check a box of, you guys are going to have to share this child because that's what's best for this child.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here, because I have a personal experience.
Right.
And we all do. We all have a mother, father, son, daughter who doesn't get to see their child because the other spouse is hiding the child or going to court and fighting. And it's like, guys, let's just stop this.
Yeah.
Stop this fighting and just share the child.
Can't we all just get along?
Exactly.
David, it's been really good to visit with you. Thank you so much.
Thank
for coming
you.
up here and taking some time. And I look forward to seeing you at the Capitol in 2021.
We'll be there.
All right.
God bless.
Legislative session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.